Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're tackling a subject today that I think a lot of people think they know, but they've actually been fed a very specific, very Hollywood version of the truth.
Yes.
We are going to deconstruct a villain, or at least someone that pop culture has basically labeled the ultimate bad guy of mythology.
It is a dismantling, certainly, but I view it more as a restoration project. We're scraping off layers of modern paint, mostly, blue flames and devil horns, to see the original portrait underneath.
Right.
Because the figure we are talking about is probably the most misunderstood character in the entire Greek pantheon.
We are talking about Hades, the big bad of the underworld.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room right off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. The Disney version.
The Disney version. If you grew up in the 90s or really any time in the last 30 years, you have a very specific image of this guy. He's got the blue fire for hair. He's fast-talking. He's sarcastic.
Voiced by James Woods. Brilliantly.
Brilliantly. And his entire existence is dedicated to overthrowing Zeus because he hates his job.
Which is a fantastic character. I mean, it's a great movie villain. But historically, mythologically, it is completely wrong.
How wrong are we talking?
We're talking almost the exact opposite of the truth.
That's what struck me when we started pulling the source material for this. The Satan archetype, this idea that Hades is some evil tempter trying to corrupt souls or overthrow heaven, that's a much later idea, right?
It is.
That's us just projecting Christian theology onto Greek myth.
Precisely. In Greek mythology, there is no Satan figure. There's no ultimate evil battling ultimate good. Hades isn't the enemy of mankind. He isn't the enemy of God.
Okay, so if he's not the enemy, what is he?
In fact, one of the sources we looked at notes that in the classical texts, he is actually described as altruistically inclined.
Altruistically inclined. Seriously.
So, I know, it sounds crazy, but it makes sense. He's passive. He maintains the balance. He isn't plotting. He's working. He's doing his job.
Altruistically inclined is not a phrase I ever expected to hear about the Lord of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense if we reframe the whole hierarchy. I really like the analogy we touched on in the pre-show.
The corporate analogy.
Yeah, the corporate analogy. If we think about Olympus, not just as a mountain, but as a massive multinational corporation.
Which functionally it was. It had departments, jurisdictions, a board of directors, and a very strict hierarchy.
Right. So if Olympus is a Fortune 500 company, Zeus is the CEO. He's the face of the brand.
Totally.
He's charismatic. He's got the massive ego. He's making the big, flashy acquisitions. And he's constantly holding press conferences, which in his case are thunderstorms.
He is the big picture guy, very concerned with image and power.
But then you have Hades.
Yeah.
In the movies, Hades is the guy trying to stage a hostile takeover.
The disgruntled head of a failing department.
Exactly. But in the actual myths, that's not him. Hades is more like the COO, the chief operating officer, or maybe the guy running the physical infrastructure, the IT department.
I'd say he's the head of IT, server maintenance, and human resources for the deceased, all rolled into one.
That's a heavy workload. That's a lot of hats to wear.
It is. He is the guy who lives in the basement, literally. The underworld, making sure the servers don't overheat. He's the administrator.
And he's happy with that?
As long as the system is running, as long as the souls are filed correctly, and as long as the deep state monsters stay locked up in the server room, he is content. He doesn't want to be Zeus. He doesn't want the spotlight.
He just wants compliance.
Compliance, that's the key word.
It's just so different. In a mythology filled with gods who are constantly having messy affairs, starting wars over golden apples, and throwing temper tantrums, Hades is quiet.
He's the invisible one.
And that invisibility is what makes him so fascinating. I mean, that's what we're going to dive into today, right?
And that invisibility is what makes him fascinating. Today, I want to explore why that specific trait, his invisibility, his distance, makes him perhaps the most critical asset in the divine administration. If he stops doing his job, the universe literally breaks.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, or rather, let's start with the word itself, because I always just assumed Hades was his name, like Bob or Steve. But it's actually a description, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, ancient names often functioned as titles or descriptors. And the etymology of Hades, or AIDS in the older dialect, is a subject of some debate among linguists.
What's the leading theory?
The most dominant theory is that it comes from the Proto-Greek word aiwaides.
Aiwaides. Okay, and break that down for us. What does that translate to?
The unseen, or the invisible one.
Which fits our guy in the server room analogy perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one you don't see, but who makes everything work. He's the back-end developer of the cosmos.
It does. Now, to be fair, there is some scholarly pushback on that. Plato, in his dialogue The Cratylus, actually has Socrates riffing on this.
Oh, Plato weighed in on this.
He did. Socrates argues, somewhat playfully, you have to admit, that the name might be related to knowing all noble things, trying to make him sound more philosopher king-ish.
It feels like a bit of a stretch, like he's trying to rebrand him.
It is a bit of a rebrand, yeah. And there's a more modern scholar, Martin Litchfield West, who suggested it means the one who presides over meeting up.
Presides over meeting up?
Yeah.
That makes him sound like a party planner? Or the god of Zoom calls?
I know, it sounds odd to our ears, but think about the universality of death.
Okay.
Where is the one place every single human being eventually goes? Where do you eventually meet all of your ancestors?
The Underworld.
Right. It is the ultimate gathering place. So the Great Convener isn't technically wrong, but the unseen is the one that really stuck in the cultural consciousness.
And this idea of being unseen isn't just linguistic, it's literal. I remember reading about his gear. Zeus has the bolt, Poseidon has the trident. What does Hades have?
He has the helm, the cap of invisibility.
Which sounds like something out of a spy novel or a fantasy RPG.
Yeah.
Where did he get this? Did he forge it himself?
No, this goes back to the Titanomachy. And we should probably pause and set the scene here, because the Titanomachy is the foundational event for the Olympians.
The origin story.
The origin story. This was the 10-year war between the new generation of gods, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Hera, all of them, and the old guard, the Titans, led by their father Cronus.
This was a civil war. A family war.
It was a cosmic civil war, and for 10 years it was a stalemate. The Titans were incredibly powerful beings. The Olympians couldn't break their defenses. They needed an edge.
So what did they do?
So Zeus released the Cyclops from imprisonment in Tartarus. These were the master smiths of the universe. In gratitude, the Cyclops forged 3 weapons that would tip the balance of power.
Okay, so this is the Q branch scene in the James Bond movie. They're handing out the gadgets.
Exactly. They give Zeus the Thunderbolt, the ultimate offensive weapon. Loud, destructive, flashy, pure shock and awe.
Very on brand for Zeus.
Very on brand. They give Poseidon the Trident, which can shatter the earth and control the seas. It's an environmental weapon.
And then they get to Hades. And he's the eldest brother, isn't he?
He is the firstborn son of Cronus.
So you'd think he'd get something pretty spectacular.
And to Hades, they hand a helmet. It doesn't shoot lightning. It doesn't cause earthquakes. It simply allows the wearer to vanish completely from sight and sense.
It seems subtle. Compared to a nuclear lightning bolt, a stealth hat feels a bit underwhelming.
But think about the tactical application. This is what's so brilliant. In the myths, specifically in the Bibliotheca of Pseudo-Apollodorus, it explains that this stealth was crucial.
How so?
While Zeus was distracting the Titans with thunder and lightning, drawing all their fire, all their attention, Hades used the helmet to slip behind enemy lines.
He's a spy.
He's special ops. He infiltrated their camp unseen and destroyed their weapons or launched surprise attacks.
So Zeus is the loud, flashy distraction, the front man.
And Hades is the quiet professional in the shadows, getting the actual work done.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The war wasn't won just by brute force. It was won by the combination of force and stealth. It established his personality right from the start.
Exactly. He is the guy who works in the shadows to get the job done. He's not interested in the glory.
So they win the war. The Titans are defeated. And now you have these 3 brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, standing over the cosmos, ready to divide the spoils. This is the moment that defines the rest of mythology.
It is. This is the great division of power.
How did they decide who got what? Rock, paper, scissors.
This is one of the most famous passages in the Iliad, Book 15. You might expect, since Zeus led the charge, he would just assign the roles. Or maybe they'd have an election, but they didn't.
What did they do?
They drew lots.
They gambled for the universe. You're kidding.
They put tokens into a helmet, maybe even Hades' helmet, we don't know, and shook it. It was pure chance. Fate.
That seems incredibly risky. What if Hades got the sky and Zeus got the underworld? The whole mythology would be different.
To the Greeks, casting lots was a way of determining the will of the fates. It wasn't just randomness, it was destiny revealing itself. So they shake the helmet. Zeus draws the sky, Poseidon draws the sea, and Hades.
Hades draws the short straw. He is the murky darkness.
He draws the underworld. And the text specifies that the earth itself, the surface, Mount Olympus, was common ground. Everyone had access to it, but their domains were exclusive.
Okay, so here's where I struggle with the good company man narrative. Hades helps win the war. He's the eldest brother, which usually counts for something, and he ends up with the basement, the place where everything is dead and dark.
Right.
He had to be furious. If I'm Hades, I'm demanding a recount. This is where the Disney version starts to make sense.
That is a very modern, individualistic reaction. We look at that and see unfairness. We see a raw deal. But the sources don't really support the idea that Hades was bitter about it.
Really, no mention of him being upset.
Not really. In the Greek mindset, someone had to do it. The cosmos has three parts. It's a system. Someone has to rule the sky, someone has to rule the sea, someone has to rule the dead. It is a necessary function of the universe.
So he just accepted it? Took one for the team?
He accepted the role. He didn't lose. He took ownership of a third of the cosmos. And remember his personality.
Yeah.
He is a solitary figure.
The guy with the invisibility helmet.
Exactly. The sky is chaotic, full of weather and eyes. The sea is turbulent and unpredictable. The underworld.
It's stable. It's quiet.
For a personality like Hades, who values order and compliance, it might actually have been the perfect fit. He represents the order of the stone, the foundation.
I guess if you're an introvert, the underworld is a dream come true. No neighbors, just ghosts who can't really talk back.
And he turned that bad deal into the most lucrative empire in existence.
Right. Let's talk about that, because we think of him as the god of death, but there's another name for him that implies he was doing pretty well for himself financially.
Pluton.
Pluton. Tell us about that.
Yes. This is a fascinating bit of cultural psychology. The Greeks were terrified of Hades. He was the end of all things. Saying his name Hades was considered bad luck.
It's like a curse.
It was like invoking death. If you say his name, he might look at you, and you do not want the invisible one looking at you.
It's like saying Voldemort or Candyman.
Exactly the same principle. So around the 5th century BC, they started using euphemisms to soften the blow. The most popular one was Pluton.
And what does Pluton actually mean?
It's derived from Plautos, meaning wealth. So they started calling him the rich one.
Is that meant to be ironic, like calling a big guy tiny? Or was he actually rich?
Oh, it is literal. Think about the geography of his domain. He rules everything beneath the surface of the earth.
Okay, I'm following.
Where do we find gold? Where do we find silver? Iron. Precious gems.
Underground. In his domain.
Right. Every mine, every vein of ore, every diamond, it is all technically in Hades' living room. He owns the physical hardware of Gaia.
Wow. I never thought of it that way.
But it goes deeper than just minerals. Think about agriculture. In the ancient world, wealth was grain. It was food. Where does the grain grow?
It grows out of the soil, from the earth.
It comes from the dark. You plant a seed in the earth, in Hades' domain, and it dies, breaks open, and produces life. So he controls not just the luxury goods, but the very sustenance of life itself.
That is a wild contradiction. The god of death is also the provider of life.
That is the core paradox of the chthonic gods, the gods of the earth. Life and death are intimately connected. You cannot have harvest without the soil, and the soil is the realm of the dead.
So Hades is the silent tycoon. I love that image.
He is. He creates no scarcity for himself.
Zeus has to demand sacrifices. He has to nag people to build temples to prove his power. Hades just sits back and says, everything you value is already mine, and eventually you will be mine too.
That's the chilling part. He has a monopoly on the end. He doesn't need to advertise. He doesn't need brand awareness campaigns. His market share is 100%.
That is terrifyingly efficient.
It is. And that efficiency is reflected in how he organizes his domain. We should probably take a tour of the facilities, because if he's the CEO, he's got a very specific campus layout.
And it's not exactly Google headquarters with slides and beanbag chairs, I'm guessing.
No. It is a landscape defined by boundaries. Emotional boundaries. The geography of the underworld is designed to strip away your humanity layer by layer.
How does that start?
It starts with the rivers, the 5 rivers of the underworld.
I've heard of the Styx, obviously. That's the big one.
The Styx is the river of hate, or more accurately, the river of oaths. It is the boundary line between the living and the dead. It is so sacred that even the gods swear their binding oaths by the Styx.
What happens if a god breaks an oath sworn in the Styx? Is there a penalty?
Oh, it's bad. The myths say they fall into a coma for a year, cannot eat nectar or ambrosia, and are then exiled from the Council of Gods for 9 years. It is the ultimate contract.
So Hades controls the river that binds even Zeus.
Think about that. The quiet guy in the basement controls the one thing the flashy CEO has to obey.
That's real power. What about the others?
You have Acheron, the river of woe or sorrow. That's the one you cross with the ferryman, Charon.
Okay.
Then you have Cocytus, the river of lamentation. Phlegethon, The river of fire, which isn't punishment fire necessarily, but a healing or purging fire in some texts.
And the last one is Lethe.
Lethe, the river of forgetfulness.
Oblivion.
Oblivion. Before souls could be reincarnated, in the traditions that believed in that, or simply to find peace, they would drink from the Lethe to erase their memories.
It's like an emotional car wash. You go through hate, sorrow, regret, fire, and finally, you just wipe the hard drive clean.
Exactly. It prepares you for the eternity of stasis. And once you cross those rivers, you reach the gates. And this brings us back to Hades' role as an administrator.
The gates, okay.
We often see him depicted with a key.
A key, not a weapon.
A key is one of his primary symbols because the
Right,
gates
right.
of the underworld are always locked. But here is a critical distinction that I think most people miss. We all know about Cerberus.
The three-headed dog. Fluffy from Harry Potter.
Yes. But in the myths, Cerberus isn't there to stop people from getting in.
He's not.
The doors are wide open for the dead. Anyone can enter. Cerberus is there to make sure no one gets out.
It's a prison, not a fortress.
It is a containment facility. And Hades is the warden. His primary job isn't to torture people. It's to keep inventory, to make sure the count remains accurate.
And once you're inside, where do you go? It's not all one place, right?
No, there are different neighborhoods, I guess you could call them. There's the Fields of Asphodel.
That's for the average Joes.
Yes, Asphodel is basically a gray, misty field where you just exist. You wander as a shade. It's for people who were neither particularly good nor particularly bad, just average.
The great boring middle.
Pretty much. Then you have Elysium, or the Elysian Fields for the heroes and the blessed, the VIP section.
Okay.
And then there's Tartarus.
And Tartarus is the maximum security wing.
It is the dungeon of the cosmos, as far below Hades as the earth is below the sky. And this connects back to the Titanomachy. When Zeus defeated the Titans, he couldn't kill them. They are immortal.
So he needed somewhere to put them.
He threw them into Tartarus, and someone had to watch them.
And that job falls on Hades.
Exactly. Hades is guarding the deep state assets. If Kronos or the other Titans were to escape, they would tear reality apart. They would overthrow Olympus. So Hades is sitting on top of a nuclear bomb 24/7, making sure the timer doesn't go off.
That puts his grumpy attitude in a whole new perspective.
Ugh.
The guy is essentially running a supermax prison for reality-ending monsters, all while managing the paperwork for every human who ever died.
Right.
No wonder he doesn't come to the office parties on Olympus.
He is the ghost in the machine. His defining characteristic is compliance and stability. He rarely leaves his post. There are only 2 or 3 myths where he actually steps foot on Mount Olympus.
He's just at work all the time.
Always at work. But, and this is a big but, when someone messes with his system, he stops being passive. He gets, let's say, creative with his justice.
Okay, this is the good stuff. He is just, but he is unpitying.
There is a coldness to his justice. If you try to cheat the system, he takes it very, very personally.
Let's talk about Sisyphus, because I feel like Sisyphus is the poster child for guys who messed around and found out.
Sisyphus is the ultimate example. He was a king, a trickster. He thought he was smarter than the gods. When it was his time to die, Thanatos, the personification of death, who works for Hades, came to collect him.
And Sisyphus tricked him. How do you trick death?
He was very clever. He asked Thanatos to demonstrate how the handcuffs worked, and when Thanatos put them on to show him, Sisyphus locked him in them.
He handcuffed death.
He literally trapped death in a closet.
What happened then?
For a while, no one on Earth could die. Soldiers would get decapitated in war and just keep fighting. The sick and the elderly wouldn't pass away. It was chaos.
Which means Hades' intake numbers dropped to 0. The system broke.
The server queue was empty. But more importantly, the natural order was broken. It was an affront to the system. Ares, the god of war, was furious because wars became boring and pointless.
Of course, Ares was mad.
And Hades was furious because his jurisdiction was being mocked.
Right.
So eventually, Ares went down, freed Thanatos, and they dragged Sisyphus to the underworld.
And the punishment, it wasn't just physical pain.
Yeah.
It was more psychological.
No, it was symbolic. It was genius. Sisyphus tried to cheat the end. He tried to create a loop where he lived forever. So Hades gave him a loop.
We'll boulder.
Roll the boulder up the hill, watch it roll down, repeat forever. It's a glitch in the code that he is forced to act out for eternity.
It's almost bureaucratic in its cruelty. You like wasting my time. Fine, waste your own time forever.
That's it, exactly. Then you have Prometheus and Theseus. This one always blows my mind. The sheer hubris involved is just staggering.
Theseus is the guy who killed the Minotaur, a big hero. It was Pirithous.
Pirithous was his best friend, the king of the Lapiths, and they were a bit full of themselves after a few successes. They made a pact that they would both marry daughters of Zeus. Theseus picked Helen of Troy when she was just a child, which is a whole other weird story. He managed to kidnap her. Then it was Pirithous' turn, and Pirithous said, I want Persephone.
He wanted to marry the queen of the underworld, the wife of the unyielding god of death.
He did.
That's suicidal.
It's insane. So they go down to the underworld, they knock on the door, and they basically walk in and demand that Hades hand over his wife.
How did Hades react? Did he blast them?
Yeah.
Send the dog after them?
No, and this is why I love Hades. This is pure Hades. He's calm. He invites them in.
Oh.
He says, welcome, please have a seat, join us for dinner. And he gestures to 2 stone chairs.
This feels like a trap.
They sit down, and suddenly, coils of snakes wrap around their legs, or in some versions of the myth, their flesh literally fuses with the stone of the chair. They become part of the furniture.
The chair of forgetfulness.
It was a trap of hospitality. You wanted to visit, you wanted to take what is mine, fine, you can stay forever.
I know Hercules eventually rescues Theseus, though the myth says he left part of his backside attached to the rock when he was ripped free, which is just a great detail.
A great detail.
But Pirithous, what happened to him?
Pirithous is still there. As far as we know, he is still sitting in that chair. A permanent monument to stupidity and hubris.
It shows that Hades doesn't need to shout to be scary. He just enforces the rules with his cold, terrifying logic.
Correct. And then you have the case of Asclepius, the physician.
The god of medicine.
Right. He became so skilled at medicine that he figured out how to bring the dead back to life.
Another guy messing with the system.
And Hades was not happy. He went straight to Zeus. He filed a formal complaint. He said, this man is cheating me. My numbers are down. He is violating the fundamental laws of nature.
So what did Zeus do?
Zeus agreed. The system's integrity was at stake. He took a thunderbolt and struck Asclepius dead.
Wow. So even Zeus backed Hades up on this. It's all about the rules.
It's all about the rules. But there is one exception. One time where the rules bent. Orpheus, the greatest musician in history, his wife, Eurydice, died. And he was so grief-stricken that he decided to go down and get her back.
Like Pirithous, but with a better reason.
And a very different method. He didn't bring a sword. He didn't bring a trick. He brought a lyre.
And he played for Hades.
He played a song so sad, so beautiful that the entire underworld stopped. The vulture stopped eating Titos' liver. Sisyphus stopped rolling his boulder and sat on it. Cerberus stopped barking.
At Hades.
And Hades wept. The stern, cold, unpitying administrator cried iron tears.
The administrator cried.
The Iron King showed uncharacteristic mercy. He agreed to let Eurydice go. But being Hades, he couldn't just say yes. There had to be a compliance clause, a condition.
Don't look back.
She will follow you. But if you turn to look at her before you are both in the sunlight, the deal is void.
And we all know how that ends. He gets to the very end, right at the threshold.
He can't hear her footsteps. He's seized by doubt. He looks back.
And she's gone.
She vanishes. But the fact that Hades made the deal at all proves he isn't a robot. He has a heart or something like it. He can be moved by beauty. But the contract is the contract.
Speaking of contracts, we can't do a deep dive on Hades without talking about the biggest contract of them all.
Oh, yeah.
The Persephone situation.
The Persephone, this is the centerpiece of his mythology,
Yeah.
and it's also the most controversial.
Right. The version I learned in grade school was simple. Hades is a lonely creep. He sees the beautiful young Persephone picking flowers. He opens a hole in the earth, kidnaps her, drags her screaming to hell. Her mom, Demeter, freaks out.
That is the narrative in the Homeric hymn to Demeter. And let's be clear. By modern standards, and even by the standards of Demeter in the myth, it was an abduction. It was violent.
It was.
But we have to look at the corporate side of this, the politics, the C-suite decisions.
Because in the text, he didn't just act alone, did he? He wasn't a rogue agent.
No, the text is very explicit. Before he did anything, Hades went to Zeus Persephone's father and asked for permission to marry her.
He asked the CEO for a merger.
Essentially. And in ancient Greek society, the father held the legal right to arrange the marriage of his daughter. He didn't need the mother's permission, and he certainly didn't need the daughter's.
So what did Zeus say?
So Zeus agreed.
Zeus gave the green light. He signed off on it.
He sanctioned the tactical merger. He essentially gave his daughter to his brother to cement the alliance between Olympus and the underworld.
So when Hades grabbed her from that field, legally speaking, He was collecting his wife.
In the eyes of Olympian law, yes, it was arranged. But they didn't account for Demeter?
Her mother.
Demeter is the goddess of the harvest. She isn't just a housewife, she is the engine of life on Earth. When she realized what happened, and that Zeus was complicit, she went on strike.
And a strike by Demeter isn't just people holding picket signs.
It's global famine. The crops died, the seasons stopped, the Earth became a frozen, barren wasteland. Humans started dying by the thousands.
Which means the sacrifices to the gods stopped.
Exactly. The revenue stream dried up, the prayers stopped. Zeus realized, okay, the system is overheating. This is a PR nightmare. We need to fix this.
So what does he do?
He sends Hermes, the messenger god, the ultimate mediator, down to the underworld to negotiate. The message is simple. Hades, you have to give her back.
Now, this is the moment I find most interesting. Hades has the legal right. He has the girl. He's in his own fortress. He could have said no. He could have gone to war over this.
But he didn't. He complied. He looked at Hermes and said, very well, she may go to her mother. He was calm. He was reasonable. But he is also the trickster. He is the master of the fine print.
The pomegranate.
Before she left, he offered her a pomegranate seed. Just a few seeds. And she ate them.
Was it a trick? Did she know what she was doing? The myths are kind of hazy on that, aren't they?
That's the eternal question. Some versions say he forced her or tricked her. Others say she ate willingly because she had come to love him and wanted a reason to return. But the rule of the fates is absolute.
If you consume the food of the underworld,
you belong to the underworld.
So as an insurance policy, he agreed to let her go, but he ensured a link remained. He created a binding contract.
It forced a compromise, a custody battle settlement mediated by the gods. She would spend 1/3 of the year with Hades as queen of the underworld and 2/3 with her mother in the sunlight.
And that gave us the seasons.
It turned existence into a cycle. Winter is when she is gone. Demeter grieves. The earth dies. Spring is when she returns. Hades didn't just get a wife. He became the regulator of the biological clock of the entire planet.
And Persephone herself. She changes, doesn't she? In the stories, she doesn't stay the victim.
Oh, absolutely not. This is crucial. She's not just a prisoner. She becomes the Iron Queen. In later myths, when people visit the underworld, they're often more afraid of Persephone than Hades.
She becomes an active ruler.
She makes decisions. She deals with Orpheus. She is the one who tells Hercules how to capture Cerberus. She becomes his partner, upper management.
She becomes a partner. The Invisible One and the Iron Queen?
Yeah.
And a power couple dynamic. I never thought of them that way.
It's the ultimate power couple. They rule 1/3 of the universe together.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about cycles. And I want to get into this syncretism concept you teased in the outline. Because when I think of Hades, I think of the opposite of life. But you're saying there's a connection to Dionysus.
Dionysus, yes.
The party god. The god of wine and ecstasy. How is that possible?
This is where we have to put on our philosopher hats. Syncretism is a $10 word, but it basically means when two different religious traditions merge, or when two gods get mashed up into one profile because they share similar functions.
Okay, but Hades and Dionysus,
Yeah.
that feels like oil and water. One is grim and sober, the other is drunk and ecstatic.
On the surface, yes, but look deeper. The philosopher Heraclitus, who was known for being cryptic and difficult, wrote a very famous fragment. He said flat out, Hades and Dionysus are the same god.
Oh, what's the connection?
Think about the vine, the grape. Where does it come from?
The earth, the soil.
It grows from the dead soil, from Hades' realm. It rises up, produces fruit, which is life, wine, ecstasy, the domain of Dionysus, and then in the winter, the vine withers, the leaves rot, and it all goes back into the earth.
It's a cycle.
Dionysus is a god who dies and is reborn every year. He is a clonic deity, an earth deity, just like Hades.
So the source of the life, which is Dionysus, and the destination of the death, which is Hades, are the same place.
They are two sides of the same coin. They represent the inseparable cycle of life and death. In the Eleusinian mysteries, the most secret and sacred religious rites of ancient Greece, there was a figure called Eubuddus, the good counselor, who was often seen as a bridge figure linking the two.
So this wasn't some fringe idea. It was part of their deepest theology.
It was. The idea is that death feeds life and life feeds death. It's a single, unified system. They shared epithets, too. They were both called Grythonios, the subterranean.
That is trippy. It actually reminds me of another term I saw in the notes. Zeus katathonios.
Yes. Zeus of the underworld.
Wait, so Hades is just underground Zeus. How does that work? He has a brother named Zeus.
In some of the more mystical traditions, like the Orphic traditions, yes. They believe that Zeus and Hades were essentially the same deity, just operating in different modes.
What do you mean by modes?
You have the Zeus of the sky, the shining, visible Zeus representing illumination, consciousness, the world we see. And you have the Zeus of the earth, the dark, unseen Zeus, Hades, representing the subconscious, death, the roots of the world.
It's like the same user profile, just logged into a different server.
That is a perfect analogy. If you look at classical art, especially pottery, Hades often looks exactly like Zeus. Same beard, same regal build, same facial structure. The only difference is the props.
The attributes.
Exactly. Zeus holds the lightning bolt, Hades holds a bident or a key or sometimes a cornucopia.
A cornucopia, the horn of plenty.
Yes, because he is Pluton, the giver of wealth, the god of all the riches that come from the earth.
So it unifies the universe. It's not good versus evil, it's up versus down, day versus night. It's a balance.
Precisely. It's a holistic view of reality. You cannot have the sky without the foundation. You cannot have the lightning without the dark soil it comes from and returns to.
That puts a whole new spin on the evil reputation. He isn't the villain. He's the other half of the king.
He is the Shadow King, the necessary counterpart.
I want to pivot to the personal side of things before we wrap up.
Yeah.
We've talked about the CEO, the warden, the husband. But does the invisible god have feelings? Does he have a personal life outside of work?
It's sparse, but yes. The myths give us a few glimpses.
Yeah.
And it's usually tragic. He is a melancholic figure.
There are stories of other lovers, right? Before or during Persephone.
There is the story of Mintho. She was a Caucasian nymph, a spirit of the river Cocytus.
One of his verse.
One of his own. And according to the story, she was his lover before he brought Persephone to the underworld.
And let me guess, that didn't end well.
She made the mistake of bragging. After Persephone became queen, Minth complained loudly that she was more beautiful and that Hades would eventually kick Persephone out and take her back.
Oof. Trash-talking the queen of the underworld. Bad move. In her own house.
Terrible strategic error. In most versions, Demeter or Persephone herself heard this and trampled her, stomped her into the ground until she was just dust.
Brutal. That's a very direct way to handle a rival.
Very. But from the earth where she was crushed, Hades, in an act of pity, caused a plant to grow.
What plant?
Sweet-smelling mint.
So every time we put mint in our tea or a mojito...
we are smelling the legacy of Hades' tragic and perhaps foolish affair.
Wow. And there was another one, Luce.
Luce. She was a daughter of the ocean, an oceanid. The myth says Hades fell in love with her and abducted her, bringing her to his realm.
Like with Persephone.
A similar pattern, yes. But Luce wasn't an immortal goddess. She was a nymph with a finite lifespan.
So she died in the underworld.
She passed away naturally, even in the land of death. And Hades, he didn't try to resurrect her. He didn't fight the laws of nature, his own laws. He grieved. And to honor her memory, he created the white poplar tree in the Elysian fields.
VIP section.
Yes. A beautiful silvery tree as a memorial to her. It shows he values memory. He's sentimental.
He is the keeper of all memories, isn't he?
Yeah.
Everything that is lost eventually comes to him.
That's a very poetic way to put it, and I think it's true.
With all this complexity, the wealth, the justice, the sentimentality, why did the Greeks hate him so much? Or if not hate, fear him so much? Why are there so few temples to Hades?
It wasn't hate, not exactly. It was aversion. It was pure primal fear. You have to think about the function of prayer and worship.
Okay.
You build a temple to Poseidon because you're a sailor and you want your ship to arrive safely. You pray to Demeter for a good harvest. You pray to Apollo for health, or to Athena for wisdom. You're asking for something positive in your life.
But you don't pray to Hades.
Because the only thing Hades can give you is death, and you don't want to speed that up. So they avoided him. They didn't want to attract his attention.
But when they did have to do a ritual, say for a funeral or to appease the spirits of the dead, how did they do it? It must have been different from the other gods.
It was very different and very visceral. They wouldn't stand tall and look up at the sky with palms raised like for Zeus. They would kneel. They would pound their hands on the earth.
Like they were knocking on the floor. Hey, are you listening down there?
Exactly. They wanted the sound to travel down. And during the sacrifice, they would avert their faces. You don't make eye contact with the offering.
What did they offer?
They would sacrifice black animals, black sheep, black cattle into pits or clefts in the rocks. Everything was directed downwards into the earth. It was solemn. It was about appeasement. Take this and please stay away from me and my family for as long as possible.
Agamemnon has that famous line in the Iliad, doesn't he? About Why he's so loathed.
He does. He says something like, why do we loathe Hades more than any god? Because he is so adamantine and unyielding.
Adamantine, unbreakable, unbending.
That is the paradox of Hades. We hate him or fear him because he is unyielding. You cannot bribe death. You cannot negotiate with it. It is the one absolute in life. But we also need him to be unyielding.
Right. If death was negotiable, the world would be chaos. Rich people would live forever. Dictators would never die. The system would collapse.
Exactly. Hades represents the great equalizer, the impartiality of the law. He treats the king and the beggar exactly the same. We fear that impartiality, but civilization relies on it.
So, bringing this all back to our main goal, we wanted to deconstruct the villain. After looking at the evidence, the dutiful brother, the wealthy provider, the strict warden, the grieving lover, what is the final verdict on the invisible CEO?
I would argue that Hades is the hero of compliance. He is the MVP of Olympus precisely because he stays in his lane.
He's the only one doing the work without asking for the credit.
He's the ultimate civil servant. Think about the alternative. If Hades decided he wanted to be the main character, if he acted like Zeus or Poseidon, what happens?
If he takes a day off, if he goes on a vacation.
If he takes a day off, the dead wander the streets. If he unlocks the gates to Tartarus, the Titans get out and the universe ends. If he withholds the wealth of the earth, we starve.
He holds the keys to the machine, literally.
He does. And he holds them silently, in the dark, without the adoration of mortals.
It raises a provocative question, actually. For us today, we live in a world that is obsessed with being the main character. Everyone wants to be Zeus. Everyone wants the thunderbolt and the podium and the followers.
But maybe we don't need more Zeuses. Maybe the system is overloaded with them.
Maybe the person who actually keeps the world from falling apart isn't the one on the stage. It's the invisible bureaucrat in the basement, making sure the monsters stay in their cages and the servers don't crash.
The invisible one is the one you can't live without. Or, I suppose, the one you can't die without.
That is the thought to chew on. Next time you see a picture of the guy with blue flames, just remember, he's probably just tired from running the entire universe's back-end infrastructure.
And he could probably use a thank you. Just don't say it too loud.
Right.
You don't want to get his attention.
Fair point. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.